In 1995, almost 10 years ago, this guy, the guy standing in the middle of the road, published a book about the future of technology and how we live. Bill Gates' book was about where technology could lead us next. A good portion of the book is about communication. Here's what he wrote. It's human nature to find ways to convert synchronous communication into asynchronous forms. What the heck does that mean? Let's figure this out. First, let's have a look at the different forms of communication. We all have a favorite TV show. These shows are broadcast on a certain day at a certain time. Conventional TV allows us to decide which shows to watch, but not when. Either you're in front of the TV when the program is broadcast, or you missed it. This is a simple example of synchronous communication. Viewers had to synchronize their schedules with the broadcast that's sent to everyone at the same time. Many of us still watch the evening news or our favorite sitcom this way. But that all changed in the early 80s with the video cassette recorder, the VCR. If you could figure out how to work the darn thing, you could watch whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. When you recorded the broadcast shows and then watched them when you wanted, you were converting synchronous communication to asynchronous communication. Asynchronous is more convenient for the receivers. You have a choice as to when you receive it. And here's another example. A phone conversation is synchronous. Someone calls, you answer, and the communication is synchronous. But with an answering machine, it's converted to asynchronous because the message is recorded and you decide when and how to listen to it. These are the two forms of communication, synchronous and asynchronous. In synchronous communication, the transmission sequence is preset or controlled by the transmitter. Face-to-face conversation, telephone conversations, video conferencing, and TV or radio broadcasting are good examples. In asynchronous communication, the transmission sequence is not preset or controlled by the transmitters. Books, letters, email, faxes, and web pages are examples of asynchronous. Up until now, just two forms of communication, all based on information theory created a half-century ago. Information theory only dealt with what to do to accurately and efficiently transmit information, not how the information is transmitted, either synchronous or asynchronous. Well, what if you could actually do what Bill Gates dreamt about? What if there was a tunable or adjustable combination of both synchronous and asynchronous communication? The most Gates had imagined was to create a hybrid system where you could switch from one form to the other, which isn't tunable or combining both forms, it's just switching back and forth. If you could actually combine them, it would be one of the biggest discoveries in recent times. Its possibilities would be endless. Well, guess what? It's here, and it's called Nexus, a new form of communication, the third form, and it was created here in Austin. What can it do? Well, for starters, it may be able to reduce healthcare costs dramatically. Healthcare costs in the U.S. are $1 trillion a year. The paperwork costs are more than $350 billion annually. Yeah, that's billions with a B. Nexus can help cut this cost by at least a third. That's $100 billion. And this is just one of dozens of applications. Sure, some folks in the industry have tried to figure this one out, but they missed it. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars and it was always there. But they were blinded by industry training and a reliance on the now ancient information theory. Well, one guy saw it, right here in Austin, and it's revolutionary. It will change our lives. It could be one of the greatest inventions of the 21st century. Nexus, the future of communication. To provide some hard proof of this discovery, we use what has helped science not only describe theories, but also to prove them: math. Without math, there's no progress. Without math, we wouldn't have computers, networks, or our current ability to communicate. Math enables us to define progress, describe actions, and predict or project future results. Nexus is the third form of communication, and the math proves it. Have a look at this. After years of development, this inventor, who has 10 years of experience in physics research and teaching, has created a mathematical formula to define and describe communication. H is the blending factor of synchronous and asynchronous communication. If H is equal to 0, we have synchronous communication. If H is equal to 1, we have asynchronous communication. Before now, this was all that was possible. Now we're able to tune H between 0 and 1, giving us a third form of communication called Nexus. Here's the big discovery. Nexus utilizes both forms of communication at the same time. Not switchable from one to the other, but a constantly changing blend of different forms of communication. Look at this. Let's say hot water is synchronous and red, and cold water is asynchronous and blue. With a valve, you can mix the two, not simply switch back and forth. True, you could switch back and forth really fast from one to the other, but this is different. You can actually blend hot and cold at the same time. Communication 101 teaches us that we need the 4 W's. With today's communication, wherever and whoever is almost possible. With Nexus, whatever and whenever is possible. The 2 W's Bill Gates described in his book. It's here now. Let's see what it creates. Imagine how many times in the delivery of healthcare services switches are made between synchronous and asynchronous communication just to fill a single prescription. Doctors, patients, insurance providers, and pharmacies. They still use many different methods: phone calls, faxes, forms, and ID cards. But with Nexus, it can all be automated. A seamless combination of many different communication methods. With Nexus, just about everything but the physical exam will be handled automatically. Everything from insurance verification to lab and test scheduling. In fact, if the doctor prescribes any medication, it'll be waiting at your pharmacy. This will result in the savings of millions of hours and billions of dollars. Nexus can also virtually eliminate credit card fraud. This too could save billions of dollars. You see, credit card settlement today is completed with just asynchronous communication. But if it was tunable between the 3 parties to the transaction, the seller, the buyer, and the bank, fraud would be almost impossible. And if I went on with numerous other applications, we might even exceed billions. Yeah, it's a big idea, a huge discovery. It can make seemingly impossible tasks simple. With each new communications discovery, it changes the way we live. Have a look at this. Nexus can and will change the way we communicate and provide benefits almost impossible to quantify. Nexus, the future of communication.